Welcome to the CT Educator Podcast. I am your host, Karina Hogan. I am a registered CT technologist with 20 years of experience and knowledge. I help new CT technologists level up their CT training so that you can become a successful technologist. I'm also a mom and committed to sharing my knowledge and expertise to help you build your confidence, know the CT basics so that you can deliver quality patient care. So let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you guys are having an amazing week. Let me tell you, the weather is getting warmer and my birthday is around the corner and I am older than fucking dirt. I know a lot of you follow me on social media and have said that I look very young for my age. Now I'm going to be 47 years old this year. Yeah. So I am that old. Okay. So I remember, 8-track tapes and vinyl records, which I know that stuff is still around, but, yeah. So, um, the weather's getting warmer. My kids are going to be going on spring break here in like 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, this should be fun because, they'll be able to go outside and hang out in the park. So yeah. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping, shall we? So, if you haven't checked out the CT Educator YouTube channel, you are seriously missing out. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel. I have posted a lot of good content. A lot of the video portions of this podcast are up on the channel. There is a masterclass that I taught on there, so make sure you guys check that out, okay? It's a lot of great information, and I'm also getting ready to add some live Q&A at the end of the weeks. And just so you guys can come get your CT questions answered. I'll be answering, any DMs, emails, you name it. Okay. So I will be doing that. All right. Also, come join the live event. I am doing a live event at the end of this month. So make sure you check out the show notes, sign up for the live event. It's going to be broadcasted on TikTok Live. So make sure you guys check that out. Okay. Also, if you need online coaching as far as fitness, nutritional advice, or need to get your body summer ready, make sure you check out the show notes. My boyfriend, who is a personal trainer, he's an online fitness coach. He gets you amazing results. And I know I personally train with him in my form. And my technique has been tweaked and he has gotten me in better shape than when I was doing it by myself. So there is a form you can fill out. I will link all of his socials. If you have any questions, if you want to sign up for his program, he offers 12 weeks of coaching. He will get you summer ready. He's the real deal, guys. He's really good. Okay. So everything will be in the show notes. So go check him out. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about debunking CT myths that could be blocking your success to being an awesome technologist. So we're going to be talking about some CT myths, and I know this might trigger some of you if, as far as, how long you've been listening to me, okay? So we're going to be talking about CT myths. So the first myth that I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to share a personal story at the end as well, okay? So are CT programs, are they really needed? And is on-the-job training better than a CT program? So let's kind of break this down, okay? So I know there's quite a few CT programs that exist around the country. I know there's about 4 colleges, I believe, and like 1 university in the state that I live in currently in Illinois that does offer CT programs, and you can get a certificate if you already have a degree, right? So I have seen the curriculum on how these CT programs are designed and how they are set up. Plus, there have been a few technologists that I currently work with that have gone through a CT program. And I can kind of share just a little bit on their perspective of going through that program versus on the job training. Now, I'm going to give you my personal perspective when it comes to CT programs. And this is just my own personal perspective because I'm one of those technologists that 22 years ago, I was trained on the job. I got paid to do it. A CT program did not exist. Like, we didn't even have that many CT books out there to even learn. Okay. There was no hospital based program. There was absolutely fucking nothing when I was learning. Okay. You learn from whoever was teaching you, and whether it was good or bad, it didn't fucking matter. Okay. So when it comes to CT programs, honestly, they're not really needed. I'm going to say that again. They're not needed. Why are they not needed, you ask? Well, because I believe that they are set up to get you what you need to know for registry purposes and to get you to acquire that credential. That's how I think of it as. Because I've looked at the curriculum at most of the colleges that provide CT programs here in the state that I live in. And a lot of it is physics based. And then they send, you get to pick a clinical site, and then they say, okay, well, you learn, whatever it is that you need to learn to get the 125 exams and then take the registry. Honestly, and I know this is going to fucking trigger a lot of you, I think it's a waste of money and it's a waste of time. And when more employers start offering that on the job training and the cross training, I think that's more useful and it's essential versus having those employees and those technologists go out and learning something from a CT program. Now, that's not to say that the physics and the technical stuff is not important. Yes, it absolutely is important. Do not get me wrong there, okay? But is it necessary to learn all the core basics, like how to set up your room, how to set up the patient correctly? And yes, people are going to come back and say, well, that's why you have the clinical part. Okay, I'm going to dissect that because I know that's what I'm going to get as far as, questions. Yes, in the clinical part of that program, you are supposed to learn all that you need to know on how to operate a CT machine, how to execute the exams correctly, how to set up your patients correctly. But honestly, the programs are not designed that way. They're designed to, okay, you got to get 125 exams. You have this much time to get the registry, and that's that. If you really think that getting a registry is going to make you a better technologist, it's not. And we're going to talk about that a little bit further, as we go on through this episode. So what I think about is that you get more hands-on when you are on the job training. You get more clinical experience and you actually get to learn more when you are hands-on learning what you need to know. Because let me tell you, you need to learn how to scan. You need to learn how to position the patients correctly. You need to know how to set up the exams correctly. And you need to know how to reformat images correctly. Like, that is your basic thing. And you need to make sure that you know how to inject contrast safely and properly. Those are the things that you need to know. That's why I've built an entire coaching and mentorship program around those basic principles. Because I can tell you, those CT programs, they're basically made out to, okay, you need all the technical stuff, you need this and that. It's basically just to get you to pass the registry. It's not going to show you how to be a better technologist. And that's where I come in to fill in that gap and to make sure that I teach you the proper way, because a lot of these programs do not do that. A lot of these programs want to acquire the students, get the money, and pump them out. That's going to be a harsh reality for a lot of you. Oh, well, okay? But that is the God honest truth, and that is what I stand on. Because I have seen it firsthand. And I can tell you, I have a friend of mine that's a technologist, spent $30,000 getting a bachelor's degree in CT. Okay. So medical imaging bachelor's degree, and they got a certificate in CT. He said he learned more on the job than going through that program and spent 30 grand. So just let that sink in for a little bit. Okay. So as far as the length of training for both, I know most CT programs are like a year. Okay. And on the job, it depends on each site, whether they give you 8 weeks of training, they give you 12 weeks of training, or they give you 16 weeks of training. Most places give you like 8 weeks of training. I can tell you that's nearly not enough. For a new technologist, that is not enough to learn everything you need to know. That's why I've made my coaching program 6 months, because in 6 months' time, you're going to be ready to go. And in 6 months' time, you might want to take a traveling job or go to another facility. So, length of training is also a myth. They say, oh, well, you train for 8 weeks and then you'll be good. Bullshit, you won't. Okay. I've seen a lot of technologists out there get 8 weeks training and cannot operate on their own on a shift. So do not believe the hype, because that's not true. Okay. 2 months of training is not enough. And that is a myth that just continues to, be put out there that in, 8 weeks time, you're going to be ready to go. And that's not true. Not true at all. No. Now, here's another myth. Passing the registry will make you a competent technologist. No, it will not. Just because you pass the registry does not mean that you have the clinical experience or the knowledge of really how to execute every exam that is known out there, or even the new ones that are starting to, that are up and coming. Just because you have CT after your name doesn't mean that you are a competent technologist. Being a successful, competent technologist takes experience, takes practice, and it takes consistency. Okay, let me say those again. Practice, experience, and consistency. Those are the 3 things you need to have. Knowledge, you can have all the knowledge in the world. I know a lot of book smart, knowledgeable techs that don't know how to operate or position a patient correctly. But they've got all the book knowledge in the world to pass that registry, but don't know shit behind the scanner. Okay? So, that's why I tailor my program the way it is, because I'm going to push you and I'm going to make sure that you are competent when you're out there dealing with the patient and that you know exactly what you're doing behind that console. It's not about pushing buttons, guys, because I could tell you some of these knowledgeable techs, all they know how to do is push a button. They don't know anything else. Okay. And that is not to, take a stab at anybody, but it's the truth. So we need to be truthful on how it really is. If we want better technologists out there, then we need to do better. Okay. So being a competent, successful technologist takes experience, it takes consistency, and lots of practice. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's fucking okay. Okay. As long as you're not harming the patient, it's okay. Because at least you can figure out what you did wrong and then fix it so it doesn't happen next time. Okay. Now, I'm going to share a personal story with you. This was a technologist that I had trained on the job. This was many years ago. And this was at the time where I had worked for the VA. And I know there's a lot of things in the media and things that are happening right now as far as with the, VA healthcare and things like that. So I worked for the VA in one of my temporary assignments because they were building a new VA hospital in Las Vegas, where I'm from, and that facility wasn't ready yet. So my temporary assignment was to work out of the Air Force Base Hospital on Nellis. So this is the Air Force Base Hospital for all the active military. So I was stationed there. And there were me and I think about 3 or 4 other techs. So me and one of the staff sergeants, well, now he has a higher rank. So I think he's like a master sergeant now. I'm not too familiar with that, even though I do have a military ex-husband, but he was in the Marines. So at that time, he was a staff sergeant, and him and I were the only 2 CT technologists that were registered. So the way that the Air Force structures their program is they cross-train all their X-ray techs into CT because they need to have coverage and to make sure that they have enough staff. because of their staffing models, because they're always getting incoming technologists, in their x-ray program. Their x-ray program is just a little bit, it's slightly different than ours. So because they built in some of the CT basics exams into their curriculum. So every 8 weeks, we get a new staff member and they would come and cross train. So I got one of them. I'm not going to say names, but I know they listen to my podcast. And I said, okay, what is it that you know? What do you need help on? How can I assist you? Like, where, do you have a checklist? Like, what is it that we need to get you up to speed on? And he says, okay, well, I know I've been doing this and this and this. And so I said, okay. So I guess we were doing like this PE study or something like that. And so he says, okay, so we're going to do X, Y, and Z. I said, oh, hold on. And I said, who told you have to do X, Y, and Z? He says, oh, well, the other time. No. I said, this is what you're going to do. You have to make sure that you center properly. Now, the amount of contrast versus saline, like you have to give like an equal amount ratio. Like you have to make sure that you test inject that IV. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. He's like, oh, I didn't realize that. So we kind of tweaked his training as far as what he was shown, because I guess he had been moonlighting through CT. And then finally he was like, okay, we're going to cross train him. So I made sure that, okay, we're going to make sure that you know how to center ahead properly. Like they have a complete checklist on how they sign off before they can take the registry. And then, okay, this PE study, okay, this, okay, that. It's to make sure that they know exactly how to operate, because a lot of them were put on like second and third shift to cover these shifts that needed to be covered. And he struggled for a long time because he wasn't shown the proper way. And I said, no. And I said, you do not need to give a large volume of contrast just to get a decent PE study. And I'm like, this is a 64 slice. Like, you need to decrease the amount of contrast. Now, if we have a patient that's like 450 pounds, yeah, we might want to give him just a little bit more contrast because his heart is not going to work as best as somebody who doesn't have any heart issues. That's not to say that somebody who's like 110 pounds could have heart failure and, it's a shitty ass PE study. So what we did during that 8 weeks is we tweaked the way he scanned and tweaked the way he delivered contrast just so he got nice enhancement in his images. And with the right guidance, he was able to operate on that shift, no problem. Okay. That's why I say, guys, sometimes CT programs can be a disservice versus if you get paired up with a good technologist. That's how, we do it. Okay. And this was more on the job training. And yes, this is, a military personnel, but of course he's still a human being anyway. So, and now he has excelled and, he has gone, just more on the medical path in a different way. So this is what I mean that, went through a program. Yes, in their military program, okay? Not one of the CT programs because their CT experience is looped into their x-ray program. So they kind of tweak things a little bit, with their x-ray programs in the military. It depends on which state you're in. This happened to be in the state of Nevada. So when I gave him that hands-on the job training, because we had him for 8 weeks and we were there every single day, I tweaked the way he scanned. I'm like, no, people are showing you the incorrect way. This is not how you do it. And then to make sure that he labeled all of his anatomy and making sure he knew what he was looking at, where his start and ending points are on certain exams that they wanted signed off on, and showed him some extra things. So sometimes CT programs can be a disservice. Sometimes they're not. Okay. They're not all bad. That's just my personal opinion. Okay. So that is it for this episode. I hope this episode was insightful. I know I kind of rambled a little bit, but I'm very passionate when I'm talking about CT myths because they're all debunked. Okay. So as far as being a good technologist, you have to have a good coach and a good mentor to show you the right way. Okay. As always, if you're interested in my 6-month coaching program, everything is in the show notes. Everything I've talked about, the live event. If you want some fitness coaching from my boyfriend, make sure you check out the show notes. And as always, follow me on TikTok, Instagram, send me an email, DM if you have any questions. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will chat with you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you would like to share your CT experience, have an interesting story to share, or need help in your CT training, please email me your questions at contact@thecteducator.com. Follow along on Instagram at the CT Educator, also on Facebook at the CT Educator. Don't forget to like, share, leave a 5-star review, as this will help support the show and it'll reach all of you that need guidance. Thank you for listening and happy scanning.